What's up, YouTube? Today's video, I'm gonna go over how much I've spent on most of these aquariums. Most importantly, I know a lot of people ask how much it cost to build the big tank. So I'll go over that, but I also want to go over some of the deals that I've gotten on some of these other tanks, which are beautiful, like the 240 and the 210 and the 300. Some of them are pretty unbelievable, so let's get started and we'll go into it. Usually I would start with the smaller stuff, but I'm gonna leave that out. Not really that important. I've gotten really good deals on the smaller stuff. Most of it's been free, to be honest. Keep your eyes peeled. You'll find some good deals on Facebook, Craigslist, Let Go, OfferUp, lots of places to look. But we're just gonna go over the big tanks, sweet deals, so let's get started. Okay, the 240, 240 gallon acrylic tank. It is reef ready. I got it with the canopy and stand. It's just the 3 pieces. So I found this deal on Facebook Marketplace. It was a weird post and I couldn't really see the tank. The way the poster listed it and took a picture of it, I'll try to show you, was just from the side here, like this. It was in a garage, obviously empty, and I couldn't really tell how big it was. The listing said that it was 200 and something gallons. They didn't know the exact amount. And again, I couldn't see the tank, but they listed it for $200. So I was like, you know what? It's a little bit of a drive. It was about 45 minutes north of where I live, but I wanted to take a chance with it. It had been on the marketplace for over a week, and I think it was because the pictures were so bad. It was a weird worded post. So nobody really knew what it was, but I was looking at it and I'm like, this might be a really good deal. So I took a chance. I drove up, I got there, and sure enough, I knew right away what it was. I knew it was 8 foot 2x2, so I knew it was a 240, and I knew it was beautiful. She had told me that somebody, a family member or something like that, had offered her $250 for it, even though she was asking $200. So she wanted $250 for it. I didn't really understand the way she worded that when I talked to her on the phone. There was a little bit of a communication error, and she wasn't there when I went to pick up the tank. So she had a friend there, some guy was there to help me load the tank. I thought it was still $200, and which either way is a steal, $200 or $250. He said, you know, it's $200, so I gave him $200. Took it home, great deal. Long story short, she ended up messaging me later like, you were supposed to give me $250 for it, so I sent her the extra $50. I'm like, I don't even care, you know. It was just a miscommunication, but either way, so I got the stand, the tank, and the canopy for $250 total. What a deal. And the reason why they were selling it was because it was her husband's and she was getting a divorce. Sad to say that that's the circumstances, but that's the truth. And believe it or not, that seems to happen a lot. You know, people break up and they just want the thing gone. The other person just wants it gone. I've gotten a bunch of tanks like that, very similar circumstances from breakups and stuff like that. People just want it gone for cheap. So that's the first one. And I would say it's arguably the best deal I've gotten. Next is the 180 gallon reef ready acrylic tank. This one was on Let Go, and it was on Let Go for a while. I think they wanted like $400 for it, which is already a good deal for a acrylic reef ready 180 gallon. But I don't know why no one took this one up, or maybe Let Go is one of those platforms that people don't use a lot, so maybe just nobody saw it. The stand was in really bad shape. The previous owner made that himself. And the tank had some weird plumbing issues that I had to overcome. But long story short, on this one as well, I offered him $250, and they said, yep, sure, we'll take it. It was on Let Go for like months, I guess. I guess they had been trying to sell it for a long time. They should have put it on Facebook Marketplace because it would have gone quicker. But I offered them $250 and they took $250. So again, another tank that I got for $250. This one was just the tank and the stand. So I painted the stand black. It was like red. It was in really bad shape. I'll try to find some pictures of it when I originally got it. And I had to do some modifications to the stand to make it really ready. If you've seen my previous video, I'm running this low as a quarantine tank. Usually I do run it full and I run a sump on it and whatnot. It didn't come with any filtration or anything like that. It was just the tank, just the stand. But $250 for this one as well. Great deal. The tank has some crazing. Crazing is basically some bubbles and whatnot in the seams, but nothing too serious. They're really not that bad. I'm not too worried about it. So for $250, I actually ran this full for months without any issues. So another great deal, and this one was off of Let Go. Next up is a 210 gallon glass aquarium. This one was also on Let Go. So it was tank and stand for sale for $600. Didn't come with anything, didn't come with the glass tops, just the tank and the stand. I actually had the glass tops. I've been collecting glass tops for years, just in case I ever come up with free tanks or good deals on tanks, and that worked out. He put it up for $600, and it was up for a couple weeks on Let Go. I didn't want to pay $600, so I kind of ignored it for a while, and then I decided, you know what? I'm just gonna offer him $300. It was a low ball offer. He responded and he said, no way, I'm not letting it go for that cheap. And I said, all right, man, no problem. I think he countered it at like 500 or something like that. I don't really remember if he countered. I think he did. But I said, no, I'm not willing to pay that, but I'll give you the 300. If you change your mind, you can let me know. Well, sure enough, 5 days later, he hits me up on Let Go and he messages me again. And he says, hey, is your offer still good for the 300? And I said, yes, it is. He said, all right, come and get it. It's all yours. So I grabbed some friends and we went and picked it up. He was very close. He was only about 15 minutes south of where I live. So tank and stand for $300 cash off of Let Go. Okay, so on to the 300-gallon acrylic tank. This was off of Craigslist. They didn't post very good pictures of it. I couldn't really tell the size of the tank, but they said it was a 300-gallon. So they knew what it was, but I just couldn't confirm. And if you're familiar with looking for used tanks online, a lot of times people have no clue how many gallons they are, and they throw out random numbers, and you really gotta watch out because you could kind of get screwed over pretty easily. So I called the number. I hate talking on the phone to people, especially for something like this, but I called the number. And they were basically like, well, make us an offer on it. I said, well, if it's a 300-gallon, I'll offer you $1 a gallon. So she said, okay, that seems fair. When can you pick it up? And they said, well, it's full of gravel, so you'll need to empty it. And we're selling this particular house that it's in. You'll have to do all the work to get it out. But again, $300. So I went, took a look at it. Sure enough, it was 8 foot, 2 foot by 30 inches tall. I knew it was a 300-gallon. They had it right. It was just tank and stand. Now, if you follow some of my other videos, you'll know that I wrapped the stand, or at least I faced it to match the 1100. So I'll show some photos of what the stand actually looks like. It's not the prettiest thing, but it was well enough made for the tank. And he had the tank full of not just gravel, but dirt. It was basically dirt, rocks, glass even. It was the weirdest thing, and it was full on this side about up to here with sand, rocks, and gravel. It was just a mess. It was in really, really bad shape. Scratched up, but I figured for $300, I'll make it work. The tank itself seemed to be in really good condition, very little crazing. Spent about an hour shoveling gravel and sand out of it, and then I had some buddies at work give me a hand. We came by at lunch and picked it up. So for $300, a 300-gallon acrylic tank and stand. So some of them seem too good to be true, but a lot of work has gone into them. I had to completely buff this tank, but totally worth it, and could not be happier with this purchase. Now I'd like to go over some of the costs on building the 1100 gallon. For starters, when I first got into it, started framing it, I was thinking I might be able to get out of this for like $1,000 total. I really thought that maybe 1,500 max I would spend to build this tank. I was naive. So the thing that really threw me for a loop was the cost of the glass. Glass is very expensive once you get anything over 1/2 inch, at least where in my area. I knew I needed at least 3/4 inch thick glass. Unfortunately, I didn't get the glass ahead of time. I framed the tank, I decided the dimensions of the window I wanted before actually purchasing the glass. Now, I could have adjusted the dimensions, or I could have adjusted certain things to a degree. At this point, I had already come so far into building the tank, I knew I needed to order a custom piece of glass. Now, luckily, I was able to find somebody who I kind of knew, who I was familiar with, who owns a glass shop, and he helped me a lot. And I was like, hey, do you think you could get me a quote on it in this piece of glass? So I gave him the dimensions, and he got back to me. And he said, well, for 82 inch by 37 inch by 3/4 inch plate glass, not tempered, it's gonna be, so it'll be $785. That was the quote he gave me. So my heart dropped a little bit. I did not expect anything like that. I had to think about it a little bit, but I ended up going for it. I did get a bunch of prices from a bunch of different places, including glasscages.com. There was no way of avoiding it. This was an expensive part of the build. The glass alone was almost $800. The epoxy was more expensive than I ever imagined also. I also did way more coats than I planned on doing, so that ended up costing me approximately, I believe, $700. The stuff's really expensive. And I said in my build video that you can do this cheaper with pond armor. If you plan a build like this, you can do it with pond armor. You can save some money. So right there, the cost jumped up just from those two things. Between the epoxy and the glass, we're already at $1,500 basically. Altogether, not including the exterior work, not including painting, not including plumbing, not including filtration and media, the lumber itself to build the tank, plus the glass, plus the epoxy, was about $2,000. Estimated cost for all the lumber, plywood, 2x4s, 2x10s was about another $500. So I might have been a little expensive. There are definitely ways you could save money. You could safely estimate to build a tank around this size, it's gonna cost you $2,000. I spent more than $2,000 because I did a lot of extras. Well, I know I spent more than $2,000 to get this whole thing running. But the tank itself, you can do for about $2,000. I think that's a good estimate. And that's basically it for this video. I hope it gives you guys a good idea of how you can really save money if you keep your eyes open. I know that not every area you're gonna be able to find such good deals. I live in a high population state in the US, so things like this are more readily available. But if you keep your eyes open, you could find great deals on tanks. This does not have to be a ridiculously expensive hobby. I didn't buy all these tanks at once, so if you were to add them all up, you're like, oh, he spent thousands of dollars. No, it's been over the course of years. Years. Even the big tank, that project was about a 4-month project. So $2,000 over the course of 4 months. Something like that. A little bit more than $2,000 over the course of 4 months. So things to keep in mind. Keep your eyes peeled on Craigslist, on LetGo, on Facebook Marketplace. Always be looking. I look daily. Literally, I'm always looking daily, and you will find them. You will find them. Especially if you live in high population areas. I am in New England, I'm in Massachusetts. So I might beat you to them if you're in Massachusetts. But if you're in New England, you got a good chance of finding some great deals. But don't even limit yourself to your area. Just keep your eyes open and I hope you find some great deals like I have. Anyway, thanks again for watching the videos and giving me a like. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.